I still remember the sound, the sharp metallic snap of handcuffs closing around Karen Price's wrists. The HOA president who thought she could evict me from the house I built with my own hands. Her blazer was white spotless, like she believed it could protect her from the truth. It didn't. I just stood there on my porch, coffee cooling in my hand, watching her empire of lies crumble piece by piece. 3 hours earlier, she'd given me a deadline. Her deadline. A printed notice nailed right into my front gate, bold black letters screaming, "Forfeit notice, evict by 3:00 p.m. It had her perfect little signature at the bottom, like she was signing a victory banner. The letter said, I owed over $10,000 in unpaid HOA fees, and that Maple Ridge Association had administratively reassigned my property. I'd been a soldier, a builder, a husband. I'd seen storms, fires, even debt collectors, but I'd never seen someone try to take my home with a printer and a staple gun. I called the number on the paper. She answered on the first ring. Maple Ridge, HOA. This is Karen speaking. That voice, smooth-clipped, full of fake politeness. I said, "This is Sam Carter. You want to tell me why there's a notice nailed to my gate saying I've got 3 hours to leave my own damn house?" She paused long enough to choose how condescending she wanted to sound. "Mr. Carter, your parcel was annexed into Maple Ridge last quarter. You were notified 3 times and failed to pay dues. Under HOA policy, your property is now under forfeiture." I let her finish, then said, "Karen, you've got the wrong man. My deed predates your HOA by 40 years. I never signed a thing." She exhaled like a disappointed teacher. "I understand this is confusing for older homeowners." That's when I cut her off. "You've got 3 hours to figure out how wrong you are. After that, it's your turn to answer the door." I hung up and stood there for a while, just listening to the wind. The street was neat, quiet, suffocating in its perfection, freshly cut lawns, matching mailboxes, the smell of fertilizer, and conformity. Across the road, the new Maple Ridge clubhouse glared at me like a watchtower. I could almost feel her eyes behind those windows waiting for me to break. But I don't break. I prepare. I went inside and pulled out my red binder, Property Original. Inside were everything I'd kept since I bought this land in 1985, my deed, county tax receipts, zoning maps, clearly showing my lot. Outside, their jurisdiction. I scanned every page and sent copies to my lawyer, to the county recorder, and to Sheriff Brooks Mason, an old friend who didn't scare easy. When I called him, he sighed. "Sam, tell me you're not joking." "I wish I was," I said. "They've given me 3 hours." He said, "Stay put. Don't open your gate. Record everything." So that's what I did. 8 cameras, all wired through my old DVR. I sat on the porch with my coffee and my old hound Rusty at my feet waiting. I didn't have to wait long. 2.5 hours later, I heard tires on gravel. First came a white pickup with the Maple Ridge HOA logo plastered on the door like they were a federal agency. Behind it, a black SUV with no plates official enough to fool people who don't ask questions. 3 men stepped out, polo shirts, HOA enforcement in blue letters, one carrying a clipboard, another a pair of bolt cutters, the third wearing a GoPro strapped to his chest. And then came her, Karen Price, white blazer, high heels binder under one arm, megaphone in the other. She looked at me like I was an old shed that needed demolishing. "Mr. Carter," she shouted through the megaphone, "you've been served formal notice. You failed to vacate within the allotted time. Under HOA authority, enforcement is authorized to reclaim this property immediately." I didn't move. "Karen," I called back, calm as could be, "you're trespassing." "This is no longer your property," she barked. "You ignored repeated communications. We're here to secure the premises." The guy with the bolt cutters stepped forward. That's when I lifted my phone and said, "Touch that gate, and you're committing a felony." She smiled, that smug, paper-thin smile people wear when they believe their own lies. "Mr. Carter, let's not make this harder than it needs to be." Before I could reply, I heard a new sound gravel again. 2 black and white sheriff SUVs rolled in behind them, slow and silent. Brooks stepped out first, sunglasses on his badge flashing in the sunlight. He didn't say a word at first. He just looked at me, then at her, then at the bolt cutters hanging halfway through my chain. "Karen Price," he said finally, voice steady as stone. "Step away from the gate." "Excuse me, Sheriff," she said sharply. "This is private HOA business." "No, ma'am," he said, pulling off his shades. "This is criminal fraud, property falsification, and attempted unlawful seizure. Cuff her." She froze. One of her men dropped the bolt cutters. The metallic clang echoed across the yard. Karen tried to talk her way out, but Brooks wasn't listening. The handcuffs clicked shut. Rusty barked twice, tail wagging like it was just another morning. You'd think that would have been the end of it. But people like her don't disappear when they lose, they regroup. 2 days later, an envelope showed up on my porch. No return address. Inside was a public statement from the HOA blaming everything on a misunderstanding. It called me an elderly resident confused by administrative changes. Claimed Karen had acted in good faith. Good faith. I laughed so hard I nearly spilled my coffee. But an hour later it wasn't funny. The story was online polished photos of smiling families under the caption, "Building Community Through Unity." Then came the comments. Anonymous accounts calling me unstable, saying I'd refused help. It was a smear campaign, fast and professional. For the first time I sat there wondering if maybe I should have just let it go. Maybe I was too stubborn, too stuck in my ways. The HOA had money lawyers, PR people. I had a dog and a folder of old papers. What if they twisted this until even I started to look guilty? For a moment I almost gave up. I almost told myself to sell and move on. But then I saw the corner of that notice still nailed to my gate, the one with her signature. And I remembered my late wife's voice saying, "Silence is how they win." So I got back up. I called Olivia Holbrook, my wife's old friend who worked at the local paper. I gave her everything: the notice, the recordings, the footage of the arrest. 3 days later, her front page headline read, "Veteran Homeowner Targeted in HOA Power Grab." And just like that, the floodgates opened. 5 other homeowners came forward with similar letters, same fonts, same fake seals, same signature. An old widow, a retired teacher, a man now in assisted living. Karen hadn't acted alone. She was the face of a racket hiding behind the Maple Ridge logo. So I did what I do best: I planned. My friend Wyatt, a theater guy who could play anyone with a clipboard, became Kenneth Talbot's state regulatory auditor. I printed him a badge that looked real enough to make people hesitate. One morning he walked into the HOA office unannounced while Karen's board was holding a transition meeting. He demanded access to financials printers and meeting minutes. They handed it all over, too scared to seem uncooperative. Through a tiny mic hidden in his lapel, I heard everything. One board member said Karen handled that one. She reused an old authorization form. Another added, she did all the auctions herself, said it was faster through her personal email. That was it. Real voices, real admissions. I sent the recording straight to Brooks. Within days, investigators uncovered 4 shell companies registered in Nevada. All of them listed authorized signer Karen Price. She'd been funneling HOA dues into fake vendor accounts, forging property transfers, and even auctioning seized homes under bogus names. Over $3 million gone buried under landscaping invoices. They came for her again just after dawn. No sirens this time, just 2 unmarked cars. The video later showed her in a robe holding a coffee mug like it could save her. The officer reading her rights didn't pause once. Wire fraud, racketeering, elder exploitation, forgery. By noon, every paper in Utah had her mugshot. By evening, Maple Ridge HOA was under state receivership. The board resigned in a single day. Weeks later, I got called to testify. I put on my old gray suit, brushed the dust off the shoulders, and walked into that courtroom like it was just another job that needed finishing. When the prosecutor asked how it started, I held up the notice she'd nailed to my gate. She tried to take my house with a piece of paper and a bolt cutter, I said, but she picked the wrong damn gate. Karen sat there at the defense table, thin, pale, her hair pulled so tight it looked painful. She never looked up. The jury took 4 hours, guilty on all counts, 17 years, no parole before 11. I didn't celebrate. I just went home, poured myself a coffee, and sat on my porch. Rusty climbed up beside me, head heavy on my knee. The wind hummed through the new black gate I welded myself, the same gate she tried to cut through. Now there's a small sign hanging under the flag above my porch, burned letters clean and simple. This house stands. This man stays. People ask if I ever got scared. Truth is, I didn't have time to. Fear's a luxury for folks who don't know what they're standing on. Me, I built this ground. And if I learned anything from all of it, it's that power only works when you believe in it. The moment you stop, it crumbles.